I've always wondered what the difference is between our instincts and our impulses because sometimes it can be really tricky to be able to discern between the two, especially when you're a hot babe who has anxiety like me. I'm definitely someone that will consider myself an anxious person. And when you're anxious or worried about how each decision you make will reflect on you, which obviously comes from a place of caring about what other people think about you, it makes you someone who finds it difficult to forgive yourself because you do something and then you're like, oh, wait, I shouldn't have done that. And now this thing that I've done has created this ripple effect of events and sequences and I'm to blame. And now I need to like not do this ever again. And then you become this person who is hesitant over every single thing you do. And your life doesn't have to be that way because as much as you can be this person who is really clued up and assured in your mentality, there's still going to be times when life will present you with a scenario where there's more nuance than there's clarity, and you might not make what you would later consider the right decision, but it doesn't mean you can't come back from it. And so when you are someone who, I personally will describe myself as someone who has ADHD, like I know that I am not neurotypical. I know for sure that being a neurodivergent person means that I'm rejection sensitive in ways that other people might not be. Like, even though I am very, very strong and bold and confident and fiery, I'm also really rejection sensitive about certain things. And having romantic interactions with men is where my sensitivity is the most prevalent. And so if you're in a place where you are having one of those like fuzzy brain days or like an ADHD day where you just need dopamine, you're likely to be impulsive. And sometimes that impulse can catch you on a day where you just happen to have met this person who you're somewhat attracted to, and your impulse tells you just go sleep with them, go do it. You know that meme of Kermit the Frog wearing a grey hoodie and it's like obscured his eyes and all you can see is his mouth and it's like, do it, just do it. Like, I feel like that's what the impulsive voice in my head looks like. Thankfully, that impulsive voice is not as active anymore. She does make the occasional appearance on days when I'm feeling triggered or when I'm feeling like doing something exciting to rustle up the atmosphere. But for the most part, when I found myself being impulsive, especially when I was a little younger, I'm on the other side of 25, I'm close to 30 now. Thank God for that. Because I would not, if someone asked me, would you redo your 20s? Absolutely the hell not, thank you. I'm good over here. But when I was in my earlier 20s, the ways that my impulses led me would be down very questionable roads where I would meet men who I would not even know them for like up to a month and I've already slept with them. And I'm not saying this to imply that sleeping with someone early into knowing them is bad. Like, as of recent, well, I say recent, maybe like a year ago or something, I had done that. But what I'm saying is that when you're impulsive, it's easy to justify certain decisions, even though there are clearly factors worth questioning, and the side of your brain that is very much saying, wait, stop, let's assess this decision and think about why we are doing this, is like, it's got like an arm muffled across its face. Like, that voice is being told to shut the hell up, and the impulse side of you has taken over this entire ship and has told you, yeah, you should go sleep with him, it'll be fun, and then you never know, you can get married. I feel like what happens is when you're driven by your impulses, your brain can make these like grandiose exceptions for people your brain will tell you that if you impulsively sleep with this guy who you have no business sleeping with, you could end up having a connection, and then you could get married in the future, because some statistics say that there are people who had a one night stand and they've been married for 25 years and now they have grandkids. It's like, yes, there are some statistics that support that ideology, but compared to the statistics of people who have taken the time to get to know each other, whether that was intentional or just due to the natural way of things happening between them in their flow, they've been able to create a bond and they've gone on to have a long-term partnership. Like, I think the statistics that support that idea are much larger than those of the idea that you can just sleep with someone the first night and then they become your husband. Also, I just don't understand what the fuss is in getting married. I feel like getting married is... Okay, how do I say this? I'm not saying this to be that person who is like, it's better to date women, because nobody is easy to date, including myself. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I just don't think marriage works as well between straight men and straight women. I've seen much more functional and powerful partnerships between women who are married. And I'm not saying that it means that it's perfect. I'm saying that I've seen two people who are both femme identifying, who are married, and what they have overcome together, the ways that they've shown up in each other's moments. Like, I could just get emotional talking about the ways that I've been able to witness queer love. It's just so beautiful, like seeing the ways that, like, it's the little things, like when they're organizing surprise birthdays for each other, and like this, it's just so special, and it's so deep, right? I just don't think men are that deep. And of course that's a bit of a generalization, but what I am saying is that I just don't think marriage is all that. So if your impulses are driving you to make decisions based on the hope and the idea that you might marry this person, I just don't think that's a good enough reason to like follow the voice. Because, impulses aren't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, impulses have led to us hearing the world's greatest albums. Like, somebody somewhere felt an impulse to sing in a particular way. And thank God the equipment was switched on at the time, because now we get to listen to their incredible music. Or someone somewhere in the world felt the impulse to write this incredible song that has now outlived generations. Like, impulses are integral in the life of any creative person. But I think where things can be tricky is if you don't have enough of a relationship with yourself where you can identify the difference between your instinct and your impulse. Because sometimes your instinct can tell you, this guy is really good for me. I feel like he gets me. I feel like so much has happened between two of us where I have enough material to observe as proof that this man can and will show up for me. That is different to being impulsive and being like, I get along with this guy and he's really hot, so I'm going to just like do a thing that I'm going to have to really think about a lot later and really question if it was worth it. And it's usually quite boring to follow your instincts when you're dating, because usually if you're actually listening to your guts, you're not going to be having as much sex with men. That's just to put it plainly, because most men aren't worth it. Most men don't deserve it. And usually your gut will tell you that. But if you're in a place where you just really want to do it, and you just really want to feel something, and you just really want to see what everyone is talking about when they're making these romantic reels and they're going on these vacations and they're getting all these like gifts from their man, you just want to feel a semblance of what that's like, then of course you're going to follow the impulse and you'll see where that will lead you. What I worry about as well is when it comes to conflating having a connection with someone with being compatible with them, that's where I feel like you need to be able to discern between your impulse and your instinct. Because when you're impulsive, you can tell yourself that because you have a connection with that person, then you're compatible and it's going to happen and it's going to work, and you insist that it's going to work. But when you're operating from your instinct, wouldn't you agree that the connection you might feel would be approached with a sense of, okay, I can acknowledge that there's a connection here. Let's see where it goes. Because I am drawn to the connection I have with this person, I'm open to giving it more time, to seeing how it unfolds. Because my instincts tell me that this person is so far so good, but I don't have enough information at the moment to be able to decide if this person should be in my life for longer. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like as well, if you're not careful, your impulses can really embarrass you. Especially if you're someone like myself who has had to really take on the journey of self-control when it comes to going off at men and being like, you can't talk to me like that. Who do you think you are treating me like that? No, blocked. Like whilst my instincts will tell me, this guy is taking you for idiots. This guy does not respect you. And you can tell he doesn't respect you because he appears and disappears. Or you can tell this guy doesn't respect you because he makes plans and then doesn't follow through with them. The impulsive side of me will want to block him immediately or will want to cuss him out. But then going off of what my instincts have provided me with, then I tell myself, well, you know what? This is someone that I need to phase out of my life, because I feel like it actually impacts men more when you just phase them out rather than to block them. I like to save the blocking for situations where I don't even have any regard for you, bruv. Like, just go away. I don't even care to hear from you again. Like, just get out. Do not talk to me again. Sometimes I feel like, the impulse is telling me to block him, but to assert control over oneself and to leave this situation dignified, I'm just going to phase him out into the background, and it will annoy him more to be phased out. But it will never annoy him as much as it has annoyed me to have my time wasted. So there's that. And also I feel like another thing with the difference between your impulses and your instincts is that we've been taught to disregard our instincts, and instead we're taught to follow our impulses, especially in a capitalist society where the idea is be impulsive, buy the thing, buy it in blue and in red. And then you can buy it in the tight version and the loose version too. Follow the impulse, get all the things, self-care, self-love, all of these things to make you buy things. And I think the more you start to observe who benefits when you follow your impulses, the more you start to sit with them and start to build a manageable relationship with the impulsive side of you, where at least those impulses are working in your favor. Because I don't think all impulses are bad. I just think that sometimes if you follow a feeling and you aren't thinking about why you're doing that thing, there's a strong chance that you might regret it later. And if you're someone like me, who is burdened with the explicit reality of what my thoughts mean when I actualize them, regret is a feeling that haunts me like guilt. I feel like guilt and regret are two feelings that can rob me of sleep. Like, if you can get me to feel guilty, then you've got me. But it's not a good got me. This ain't the romantic got me. This is the, oh no, this ain't good. Or if you can get me to regret something, that's definitely going to inspire me to stay the hell away from you. But when we really think about the world we're living in, it's no surprise that we are all in some ways encouraged to follow our impulses rather than following our instincts. Because really and truly, what would the world look like if women followed their instincts over their impulses? Like, if we actually was to listen to the voice that tells us, this guy ain't good for you. He's just giving you compliments because he knows you want to hear those compliments. And he's got about 13, specifically 13 of those compliments remixed into different variations. And he's going to allocate them to you over a 3-month span. And this drip feeding process has been specifically designed and tailored for you so that by the time the 3-month process has reached its end, he will get what he wanted from you. And you being needy for validation, and you being, what would I say? You being someone who is a victim, a victim of your own impulses, because your impulses have got you in a headlock. Yeah. You being driven by your impulses, you will eat every single crumb he leaves for you. And that's how you end up in that situation. And then if you're somebody who is on a journey of trying to love yourself more, you now are met with the regrets of that choice you made. And you're now thinking, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so upset that I've done that. What does this really mean? How does this reflect on me? What am I going to do differently next time? And then the next time comes, and instead of to use this as a chance to put your impulses on hold for a second and listen to your instincts, you do what? You follow your impulses again. And that's how people remain in cycles where instead of dating men, they're getting over men. Like, you just can't be letting your impulses embarrass you like that. And another thing is when you really start to deep it and really take time to recognize the world that we're living in as a woman, you start to see how differently the world looks and feels when you allow your instincts to take lead instead. Because if you've gone your whole life disregarding your gut and telling yourself, I'm too sensitive, I'm too emotional, and then time after time you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I was right, I knew this all along, then at what point are you going to change the course of things? Because this whole I was right, I knew it all along can't keep on happening. Something has to be done differently the next time round. And when you are following your instincts, isn't it ironic that it feels like you're taking a risk, but when you're being impulsive, it feels safe? Like, shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't it be that when you're following your instincts, because you're so used to following your gut and listening to yourself, and you have got an internal proven track record that great things happen when you allow yourself to be guided by your own truth? Like, wouldn't it be then that you'd feel safe and assured when you're following your instincts? And instead, when you're following your impulses, you feel a bit nervous. Because these days, I feel like when I'm being impulsive, I feel a bit more nervous because I'm like, am I giving this enough thought? But then I don't want to be on that tightrope of overthinking every decision I make. So it's a tricky balance. But what else can you do when you live in a world where the decisions that you make, especially when it comes to dating men, have a material consequence in your life? And I'm not saying that you are to blame for what happens to you at the hands of men. But what I am saying is we all have a role to play to some extent in the society that we live in. And in a world where you're met with the choice between following your impulse and following your instinct, how are you actively participating in your own oppression? That's what I want you to ponder on, because every day I be pondering. Every day I'm like, is it my impulse or is it my instinct that's got me here? Because something's got to give.